When you think about a financial crisis, what comes to mind? Probably things like bank bailouts, rising unemployment, maybe your own savings taking a hit. But there's another cost, one we don't talk about nearly enough, the toll it takes on our minds.
So let's ask the big question. What does the actual evidence say about this? When a whole country's economy is in chaos, what's really happening to the mental state of its people? Okay, let's dig into what the science tells us. And to get our answer, we're looking at a huge review from the Journal of Mental Health. Now, this isn't just one study or somebody's opinion. Researchers combed through decades of global research, literally pulling it all together to get the clearest picture possible. So after sifting through all that global evidence, what did they actually find? Let's break down their main conclusions. First, just take in the scale here. We're talking about 98 separate scientific studies. That is a ton of data, and that scope gives their findings some serious weight. And the main takeaway? It was completely clear. No matter the country, the culture, or the decade, the data shows a powerful link between a financial crisis and a rise in mental health conditions. It's not a coincidence, it's a proven pattern. But here's where it gets really interesting. They talk about a reciprocal relationship. Think of it like a two-way street. Financial trouble can spark mental illness, but then that illness makes it even harder to get back on your feet financially. It's this vicious cycle that can be incredibly difficult to break out of. So let's move beyond the data for a second and look at the real human price of all this, because this is about so much more than numbers on a balance sheet. The review looked at major economic disasters from all over the world. You had the recessions in Sweden and Finland back in the 90s, the Asian economic crisis, the 2008 global financial crisis that so many of us remember, and the long, painful Greek debt crisis. The evidence is truly global.
So, what specific mental health outcomes were they tracking? Well, tragically, suicide was the most studied issue. It appeared in almost half of all the papers they looked at. After that, you see huge numbers of studies on depression, anxiety, and just general stress. These are the invisible burdens that millions of people carry during a downturn.
And the research makes one thing painfully clear. This burden is not shared equally. Some groups are hit way harder than others. We're talking about children, older adults, single parents trying to do it all, minorities, migrants, and of course, anyone who is already struggling with a low income or unemployment. They face the biggest risk. Okay, so that's the problem. It's pretty heavy stuff, but what can we actually do about it? Well, the research also points a way forward, showing how we can turn this evidence into action and build what you could call a mental safety net. The researchers basically laid out a blueprint for how to be more resilient. And the key insight is that government policies can act as a kind of psychological buffer. Things like strong social safety nets, unemployment benefits, housing support are absolutely vital. So are policies that help businesses keep people on the payroll, and critically, making sure everyone can get affordable health care, especially mental health services. That can make all the difference in the world. But really, the ultimate takeaway is that we need to shift from being reactive to being proactive. It's about designing our economies for long-term stability, not just short-term profit. It means we should be tracking how people are actually doing, their well-being, not just economic numbers like GDP. And yeah, it means stronger rules for financial markets to prevent these massive crises from happening in the first place. So where does all of this leave us? Well, it really points toward a fundamental rethinking of how we even approach economic policy. You know, if there is one single idea to take away from all of this, it's this right here. Our financial health and our mental health are not separate problems. On a massive societal level, they are deeply and fundamentally connected. You can't fix one without thinking about the other. And that leaves us with one final and really important question. This evidence challenges all of us to think bigger, to ask ourselves, how can we start building economic systems that don't just protect our wealth, but also protect our well-being?